Welcome to Amplifying Leadership, a podcast where we talk leadership and all that goes with it, with their guest stories, wins, tips, and challenges. My name is Tara Lehman, and I am a partner, coach, and consultant at Twin Lake Coaching and Business Services, of which Amplifying Leadership is a division. For our leadership clients, we love to support you through this podcast, tools, coaching, training, and more. To learn more about our Amplifying Leadership division and community, please visit us at amplifyingleadership.ca. Today, I am welcoming Olivia Smith, a transformation expert, founder of Write a New Story, and also a professional coach. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I'm excited for our topic today. But before we get into it, why don't you tell our audience your leadership story?
Okay. I started as a registered nurse. That's what I thought my career was going to be. Mm-hmm. And then the stay-at-home mom stint happened. Had two little girls back to back and was a stay-at-home mom. And during that period, sort of took a drastic turn away from medical and came up with an idea, started a little home business and came up with an idea for a product. And long story short, I put the product in a local retail store to try it out, and it hit.
Wow.
So I found myself in a situation where I had something that was sellable and I had no idea what to do. I had no business background. So for 15 years, I played the let's figure it out day-to-day game and built a multi-million-dollar business started out with one product, and over the course of 15 years, of course, had many products and that launched along the way, and it was a great ride. And then in 2010, decided that 15 years was long enough, and so I closed that company and spent some years in accounting, and during that period was volunteering at the Tennessee Prison for Women.
Oh, wow.
And an inmate with whom I was partnering shared her story with me, her life story with me, and that basically changed the direction of my life.
Wow.
I was so moved and inspired by her story that I was sort of felt led to start a nonprofit called Healing Housing. So once again, I was on a new entrepreneurial journey, had no background in starting a nonprofit. And so got that, went on that journey, started the nonprofit, built a team of women to come alongside me who believed in the vision that I had. And so we worked on that project for about 2 years before we opened the doors to that.
Wow.
And ran that for about 1.5 years. And I would say a big leadership lesson happened to me during that period because I had learned enough about myself to know that, and from nursing, going back years and years ago, had come to understand that I'm not sort of the chronic hang in there for the long haul manager type of person. I was more of an in and out, whether it was being an ER nurse, a trauma nurse, or whether it was, running a product, very busy, fast-paced product company. I was more of the get it going, get it open, get it started, and then move on. So thankfully, having learned that lesson, I was able to pass the leadership, hire a leadership team, and turn the leading of the nonprofit over to a team of people who I knew could do a lot better job than I could in terms of the long haul. And so then I sort of looked back on that 35 years of work and thought, what is all this craziness from nursing to entrepreneurial ship to nonprofit? What is this all? What's that package? What can I do with that package? And I decided that consulting and sort of turning around, putting a hand out and helping the ones coming up and along their entrepreneurial journeys was what I really felt called to do. And so I opened my Write a New Story consulting company and began that entrepreneurial journey. So here I am.
You are a true entrepreneur. It's amazing work you've done throughout your leadership story. Thank you for sharing all of that.
You're welcome.
So let me ask you this, because you would have had some leaders throughout your working years. What was the best thing that a leader taught you, and how did it help you throughout your leadership journey?
So I think one of the most important things was watching people with different leadership styles. Some of those styles played to my strengths. Some of those maybe did not. But the leaders that I guess I remember most were very direct,
Okay.
very transparent, very honest, not a lot of fluff, just, took your concern, listened, tried to solve the concern or help solve the concern, bring back the answers, and just laid it out there and asked people to accept the decision as a team and move forward together. Whether we agreed or not always was not really the point, but the point was once a decision was made, showing the team what that looked like to circle around and say, okay, wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I'm part of this team and we're going to move forward together and move on to the next decision. So I think that was probably, thinking back on people that have led me, that those type leaders would have had the most impact on me.
And I love that you mentioned my favorite word, which is listen, because I think leaders need to actually listen to when people say, and you're right, not everybody's going to agree. And that's the beauty of good conflict. I say good conflict because there's bad conflict too, but that's, good conflict in a team, and listening to those ideas before making that decision, I think is an awesome lesson that you are bringing up. So that is perfect for this story.
Well, you've probably sat in a room with the leader who you could tell they'd already made their decision and they were
Yes.
just mollifying us and acting like they were listening, but you sort of could tell they had already made up their mind. And sitting with those who genuinely want the feedback, listen to the feedback, and come back to you and prove to you that they did indeed try to act upon what was said and gave it their best shot. Like I said, not always coming up with the answer the team may have wanted, but just showing that they had supported you in their efforts to put in your requests. What could you say? They did their best. They went to bat for you. And at the end of the day, sometimes it worked out and sometimes it didn't. But those are the leaders I liked watching.
It's definitely a key aspect of good leadership, though. Absolutely. So I want to come to a topic that I understand that you like to talk about, which is about hiring the right team. So clearly throughout your journeys and your businesses, you've had to hire people, or working with those right teams. So
my advice in this area comes from all the mistakes I made.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit about that.
So as I matured along my journey, I started to realize, maybe too late, hopefully not too late, but we all make hiring mistakes, and it's a combination sort of an art, between art and science. The mistake I made was I liked everyone.
Okay.
I could always see the good in people. And so despite what they might have said, I was overlooking that and in my mind already fixing it. Oh, well, if I hire her, we'll get her straight on that pretty quickly. And I wasn't hearing what I needed to hear. I was hearing what I wanted to hear.
I see. Okay.
And that led to hiring mistakes. Sometimes it was fine, but sometimes I missed clues that they gave me, that they were not going to be the best hire I could make. So sitting in the seat I sit in now, having had many years now behind me, I invested in the training and now do behavioral assessment work, which is part of how I help companies do better hiring, more informed hiring. Is I have a tool of DISC assessment tool, which I'm able to offer. And so candidates can log on, take this online assessment. It takes, 10 minutes to fill out. I get the results back, and then I'm able to coach the employer on the results and what those results tell me, at least on paper, without me having met the person. I can tell them on paper what I'm seeing and sort of some educated guesses about how this person probably would act or behave or perform at work. And so they can use that information to make a smarter hire. It's not the only information they're going to use, but it becomes a pretty good tool in the toolbox of, especially if you've got it narrowed down to 2 or 3 and you've got a really big hire to make, just having some objective information about that person is helpful. And so I have really dug into that work, and that's a lot of what I do now in my practice is both helping with hiring decisions, but then mostly it's people are already hired, they're already working at companies, digging in with teams, using these behavioral assessment results to help teams understand how to better communicate with each other, how to relate better to each other, how to work as a team, how to pick team members that are going to work well together. So it's a lot of cultural work that can be done and improved upon by using this sort of assessment tool.
And it's funny you mentioned DISC, because that one we used in my corporate world many years ago. And we started saying we should get the colors, because it's different colors with DISC, and put the color on our office doors. Everybody knew who they were approaching. And it almost talks to know your audience or know your employee.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, I always tell the business owners, oh, we'd like to do this on our team. And I always look at the business owner and I'd say, the first person we're doing it on is you.
Yes. Yeah. You have to understand yourself as a leader, right?
Absolutely.
Before you, yeah. So it's very interesting you brought that up. A lot of companies do different assessments. There's DISC and there's other ones out there. But let's say I'm a new leader. I don't have access to the funding, for example, to do that. What are some tips that you have to help me hire the right team for me as the new leader?
So, first of all, you've got to know the positions for which you are hiring. So, what are those 2 or 3 key positions that you need to hire, and what are the job descriptions? A lot of people go out and start hiring and they don't have a really thorough job description. So what's that person going to be doing? Okay. That's the first thing we need to know. Then once we know that, you can look at the task, the job description, and say, okay, that's kind of a, analytical type position. That's a lot of digging and finding data and doing analysis and doing research, or that's a very, people-oriented job. That's going to be meeting people and customer service and interfacing with clients. And so that's a totally different kind of person you're looking for than the first person we described.
Right.
So that's the first thing is what's the job?
Yeah.
And then you think about step 2 is what kind of person is most likely the best fit for a smiley customer service, touching people, touching the customer, touching the building those relationships. What kind of person? That's a sunshiny, glass half full. How they look at life is going to be very differently than the one who likes to sit at a desk with their door shut doing research.
Yeah.
So it's understanding the job, then understanding the kind of person that it takes to fill that job. And just getting very clear on those 2 things is real important. And an assessment is not, through me for instance, the cost is $150. That's not a big investment when you're talking about the cost of turnover and making
that's huge.
Hire.
Yeah.
So am I going to spend $150 or a couple $100 for Olivia to do an assessment and give me a debrief and up my chances of making a better hire? Or am I going to just do a crapshoot and pick somebody that I like, and a year later or sooner, they're gone. And now I've thrown half their annual salary in the trash in the cost of turnover.
Yeah, it's amazing the cost of turnover. I read an article last year that said, this is US, but down in the US, depending on the level you're hiring, but it can be upwards of $50,000 because there's all the retraining. It's your time, your HR's time. It's if you do use it like agency, like it just is so costly. So I definitely, the job description. I love that you brought that up, because I don't know how many companies and small businesses don't think about the job description, but who are you hiring then, right? Because the personality,
job descriptions are detailed and they take time to develop, and nobody wants to sit down and take the time because everybody's too busy. And all I'm saying is, if you understand that the cost of turnover at minimum is 50% of a person's annual salary, up to 250%, like you said, depending on the level of the hire. If it's a C-suite executive, you're up at 250% of their annual salary now to replace them. Yeah. So you take a couple of hours to get a job description written, do an assessment, do a debrief, you're in maybe $300, $400, $500 of cost between your time and the assessment and the debrief, balanced against a potential minimum $50,000 in the trash. That's easy math.
Yeah, no kidding. So let me ask you this. When you look at the clients that you've had that now do the assessments, does their turnover rates go down, that they're starting to use a different type of tool?
Yes, because if they start using a tool, what that really means is they're really starting to think about the process.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just hiring warm bodies. If they're going to start using an assessment, they've made a decision to get more serious about how they're looking at their hiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So it's not just that they've started using assessments. You know that their internal HR department is going to up their game a bit in terms of understanding the cost of bad hiring and trying to do everything they can to mitigate that on the front end.
So definitely get those job descriptions. Take the time to do it. I mean, I preach that with my clients as well. Take the time to get a good job description.
Right.
Maybe do those assessments.
When you send me, if you're going to say, Olivia, help me on this hire, the first question I'm going to ask you is send me the job description.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I debrief you, I want to be looking at that job description and telling you, okay, here's how they profiled. Here's what the job description requires. Here's the kind of person that job description really needs. And you can tell by how I'm describing what I'm seeing on their assessment, whether that's a match or not.
Yeah.
And it's not good or bad, right or wrong. It's simply saying, is what this person has a match for what the job requires, or is it not?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a simple, and anyone taking a job should want to understand that what they're bringing to the table fits really well with what they're going to be asked to do. Because if it doesn't, they're going to be unhappy every day when they go to work. And that just helps anybody.
I remember when I was doing hiring, I would have a copy of the job description, and so many people would say to me, I've never gotten a copy before.
Yeah.
But I want you prepared for the interview. I want you to know what we're doing and what we're going to talk about and what our expectations are. And it helps that person who's being hired as well. Like if we look at the other side, right, that person being hired now knows if they're a fit to go with that leader and that team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Goes both ways for sure. So let me ask you this. What should new leaders know in order to work with the team they currently are being brought in to lead? So it's a current team, it's established, they're the new leader going into it, and they lose somebody and they have to hire. Is there anything in there that they should know to watch for, or how they need to lead that brand new team so they don't have to hire? Any tips around those types of things you may have?
So I think you said, did you say this is a new leader and a new
leader? Yes, okay. New leader.
So a new leader, a lot of times a new leader sort of has, their dander up a little bit because they're nervous. They're stepping into a new position and they want to be seen, as in control and being in charge. Mm-hmm. And my advice is put your ego in your pocket.
Yes, I agree.
And so you walk in, you are in listening mode, you're in discovery mode for months, maybe. Mm-hmm. You're not in go in, blow everything up, and create chaos.
Right.
So for some period of time, it probably depends on how big the organization is and the position, but for some period of time, you are putting on a servant's hat, you are listening, you are putting your arms around that team, trying to build camaraderie. Mm-hmm. And what you've got to try and build right from the beginning is trust. They don't know you.
Oh, yes.
They don't know anything about your style, how you operate. And so what you're trying to show very slowly but very surely is reassuring everyone that you've got their best interest at heart, as well as the company's.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that your job is to build and maintain a very well-oiled machine with that team. You depend on them, you need them, and they need you. And they need you to be a strong leader. And from the start, building that trust will ensure that you are consistently able to get feedback that you desperately need from that team. Because when they don't trust you, they're not talking to you.
No, they aren't. And trust is a huge piece of leadership. And if you, especially as you mentioned, if they're new to that seasoned team, so to speak, yeah, like taking a break, just sit, relax, learn, and grow with the team. So, it's almost like the assessments, right? You've got to figure out who your team is and how to talk to each and every one of them, because we're all different, right?
And the leader, first of all, needs to understand who they are. So doing some sort of assessment to get their arms around just who they are. Most of the time when I do a workshop, and I don't give anybody their results until halfway through the workshop, and then I make them guess what they are, what style.
I like that.
50% of the time, people guess incorrectly.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
And my point is, okay, you don't even know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So let's stop for a minute. Let's get our arms around that. Step 2 then is looking outside and seeing how the world is perceiving this style that you have. Again, no good or bad. It's just, okay, here's kind of how I'm made up. Here's how that kind of looks to the world. And then you learn about the other types of styles and how to adjust your style to match the person that you're going to be dealing with, because a winning conversation has a higher likelihood of happening if you can talk their style.
Yeah, absolutely.
First, have to know who you are and be comfortable that you got a handle on that. Then start getting educated on the other styles and how they best work together. And then you start speaking more in their language, and you've got a much higher likelihood that they're going to hear you. And then if you're the leader and you're walking into a room, whole team sitting around a table, you've got all the styles sitting around the table. You've got to learn how to speak in all those styles.
Yes.
In the same meeting, in the same hour, you've got to be talking to every single of all the 4 styles in the same meeting. And we teach you how to do that.
Excellent. So let me ask you, if you had a key takeaway today for our audience, something you really want them to take from our conversation, what would you say that is?
For the leader, I would say take the time and invest in yourself. It's the best gift you can give your company. If you get your arms around who you are, how you are leading, where the pitfalls are, and work on that, because your company needs you to be the best you can be. And then invest in coaching, consulting, working with someone one-on-one that you can build a relationship and trust, because the only place you can get honest feedback is from somebody like that. Your team members, they're being paid by you.
Yeah, they're going to say what you want them to hear.
So right. Yeah. And they're going to be very reluctant to give bloody honest feedback. Whereas your coach or consultant is going to look at you and tell you exactly what you need to hear.
Yeah, that's what our job is, right?
So I would say, put your ego in your pocket and admit that no matter how old you are, how long your leadership journey has been, there's always room for growth, and there's always opportunity to be better, and embrace it.
I love that. That's an excellent way to finish our conversation today. Professional development, always. Continual improvement, always. Great. Well, thank you for being on the show. If any of our listeners wanted to reach out, find more about you, is there a way they can find you online?
Yes. If they go to Write a New Story, WRITE, writeanewstory.com. I'm on also LinkedIn. Olivia Miller Smith is my LinkedIn name, as well as Write a New Story, and Facebook and Instagram, all the typical places.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
You're welcome. Listen, thank you so much. This was great.
A big thank you to our listeners, of course. We hope you are taking away some tips and information to help you on your leadership journey. If you are new to leadership or even a seasoned leader who knows that support and developing your skills are the way to moving forward on your leadership journey, or you want to join a leadership community, please visit us at amplifyingleadership.ca. That's CA as in Canada. We are a Twin Life Coaching and Business Services division. Until next time, please be safe and be an amazing leader or leader to be.